So this gonna make me skip into some questions down the line that I have for you. Track beefs. I mean,
Oh, beef.
you've covered a few of the track beefs, and especially the one right now with Kerr and Jacob. What do you feel that track? Do you feel that track beefs are good for the sport, and in what way? And then when does it get bad for the sport if you think it's good?
I think it's very, very good. The problem is the media leeching, and I try not to go overboard because if you cover one story 50 times, it just the marginal returns are significant, and then it gets saturated, and the story becomes less significant and just becomes almost a parody of itself. In fact, every time if there's something new updated with Jakob and Kerr, I'll inevitably get a few comments that are like same thing, different day. I'm like, no, there was a brand new race, brand new interview. People want me to cover it, so there's always a little bit of balancing how much you need to cover something. And every time there's some kind of beef, it's a little bit different. I feel like this Kerr and Jakob thing is like, there's history behind it. There's Jakob losing 2 years in a row to a Scottish guy, right? Kerr opens his mouth a lot more than Jake, and Kerr's backing it up now. Jakob broke world records last year. There's big stuff going on. And unfortunately, some people just have to have a villain, and some people just have to have a hero. So I think that the world needs to, I don't want to say come together, but people need to be more open to like every person's situation. All Jakob can do right now is talk. He's been injured. He's been out. It's good to have that.
He's talking though.
Oh man.
He's talking.
I recently said he's running while Kerr's out running, Jakob's out running his mouth. That's what I was saying because it's true, I mean, I love to take a step back. I'm a huge fan of both. Numbers guy, myself, I mean, they're running incredible stuff. And I think they're both overall showcasing a huge positive influence for the sport. Eyeballs are coming in, articles are coming in. I don't think we've reached the point where it's like the wells run dry with drama. And I also don't necessarily like the word drama because it's genuine, like professional athletes giving takes on other professional athletes. Like that's kind of what you need. Like you've heard the MMA build up, the boxing build up. Those are obviously huge, kind of in that vein. We need a little anticipation, a little angst in the track and field world. I don't like it when it becomes like standing up next to each other, nose to nose, getting all awkward and uncomfortable. We don't need that. I think
so not a boxing showdown.
That is unnecessary because we're racing and running. We're not trying to beat the crap out of each other. I think it works for boxing because you literally are going to be face-to-face boxing. I mean, the optics of it are so different. But, also I'm kind of excited to learn every single day. Excuse me, I'm still going through puberty. About what like makes a good rivalry, good beef tick. What brings in good views. I mean, I base a lot of my merit off of what brings in views, what doesn't, and that's what the audience wants ultimately. So I mean, some people consider that a little shallow, but I mean that's literally how the media works. Like that's how stories come in.
What's the difference between a rivalry and a beef? Can they be one and the same, or are they different? Because I can see in my head, I see some runners as they're beefing, and then I see others as a rivalry. So I'll say Coleman and Noah, it's a rivalry. But I say Fred and Noah, that's a beef.
No, I gotta disagree with you on the Coleman.
You think
and
so?
Noah. What? You don't remember? You don't remember in 2018 when they had the press conference after Noah won and he ran 9.8, and they asked him, they said, "Were you looking over at the clock?" And he says, "Why I gotta look at the clock for?" So he was insinuating that he was looking over at Coleman and he was beating Coleman. Then they took to Twitter and then they started going back and forth. It died down the next year, but the static was still there in 19. You know what I mean? Going into 19 at the 4x1, relays, we had a meeting and you could tell it was kind of heavy. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, look, guys, we had to come together here. Like, you do you, he do him. All I know is gun goes off, you hand the stick off, you come across the line with the stick, let's win a goal. You know what I mean? And I think that's when everything kind of like, all right, you do you, I'm going to do me. But you could tell it's kind of like, yeah, it's maybe watered down to more of a rivalry, but there was a beef at one time in that situation.
Yeah, I guess it can come in and out of the rivalry beef situation. Depends on what's going on. I can't speak for Noah and Fred, but like when I was in Boston for the Indoor Grand Prix, I was doing like some interviews with Dan O'Brien, getting ready for the next day, and it just so happened that the schedule was Fred came in, we interviewed him. No, it was Noah came in, and he did the interview, and then Fred came in and sort of waited a few minutes, and as they were sort of changing places, they acknowledged each other, like, "Hey, how's it going?" But as someone who kind of feels the environment, I was like, you know what? There's clearly something here. There's clearly something here. Depending upon how outdoors goes, that can become like beef to grill up and eat, because that's exciting. They have such high potential as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially Noah. I feel like going across the board, Noah loves to rise to the occasion when there's a little bit of rivalry / beef, whatever you want to call it. And he definitely is going to have his hands full competing in the 100, saying with someone like Coleman, Trayvon, and then competing in the 200. If we see Curley there or Fred Curley or Michael Norman or anybody else for the 200, Arian Knighton, like he has shown that he does not shy away. If you remember from the Adidas meet when they ran that, was it 150? They ran the 150. You could see him at the beginning of the race. He was talking to all the guys and he was giving them dab like, ha, 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 ha. And then as he crossed the finish line after the race, he just turned around and just shot them all down. Like,
oh, I missed that. I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah, man. Yes. It was really clear. In my
Shots
head,
fired.
I would love to see or hear what he said to them. Because if he's like, yeah, come on, guys, let's get it together and get a good race. And then come across the line like that and then shoot all of them. In my head, I'm like, what? Wait a minute. Like, yeah, you won, but that's kind of crazy. You won't pull out a gun and shoot me too.
It helps to have a rivalry to have better beef, I guess is the way I'm looking at it. It doesn't have to necessarily be that way, because you could have like Donovan Bailey versus Michael Johnson in the 90s where they ran the 150. You can meet in the middle somewhere by a good enough smack talk session, which could result in a 150-meter race where one athlete doesn't finish. But I believe he was injured. I guess I believe it. But anyways, to get back to the question at hand, beef itself can happen in any way, I feel like. And not necessarily one to cover that. I always start with the athletes and the athletics itself, and then that blossoms into something else, then great, I'll cover it. But so right now, yeah, Kerr and Jakob are clearly relevant. But like you mentioned, there is Coleman and Lyles. There's Curley and Lyles. Lyles likes to... No one knows what he's doing. I think he's familiar with how to get hype and how to really charge, backing it up. Now, there's a big important part of it too, for sure. Yeah. But he knows how to charge up the audience and himself in the process.